It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Yes, it's the Real Estate Breakfast heard right across Australian cities and regional hotspots, and aren't there a few of those out across the land at the moment? Never a dull moment too when it comes to property and how to traverse your way through the landmines that are out there. You don't get caught in one of those traps. We've got over 1,600 episodes now. It's a lot of episodes to work your way through the back catalogue, but it is your resource to turn to. You know, anybody that is anyone has been on the Aussie Real Estate Podcast to share their views and their ideas to help people just like you navigate it a little more easily. Well, it's a Thursday morning, second day of July, and we are back in Brisbane this morning, and we're catching up with Tristan Rowland. He is the founder from Bright Real Estate Agents. And welcome for the first time, Tristan, onto the Real Estate Breakfast. A lot going on in the Brisbane property market at the moment. In fact, it's moving differently to Sydney and Melbourne. While some markets are slowing, Brisbane continues to see strong demand, which we've been talking about because the housing supply is struggling to keep up. Limited stock is creating that competition too between the buyers. Is the Brisbane shortage of homes the biggest reason, do you think, that prices are still staying strong?
I think there's a combination of things. The shortage of homes definitely has helped, and we've also got a lot less stock on the market than what you'd see in a cooling market. And there's a few factors for that. People don't want to sell until they buy, or they don't want to buy until they sell. You've also got we got a lot of interstate migration still. I'm probably the only person in Australia that wants Jacinta Allen to get back in October, because we had a lot of migration from Victoria in the last 12 months. A lot of people getting out of there from what's going on and moving up to Brisbane for the lifestyle change. A lot of Sydney people as well. And as rates go up, I find generally we get a lot of that, because why not sell your house in Sydney for $5 million and buy an absolute cracker up here for $2 million and have some change left over, and it's a lot easier to manage that mortgage. Still a lot of interstate migration, and again, there's just nowhere near enough supply being built at the moment.
Yeah, you talk about buying something a lot cheaper. Even the retirees, they're looking at the unit market of Brisbane cashing out in Sydney. It's one of the real big surprises in the Brisbane market. Still hot, isn't it? So the units could become the strongest part of the Brisbane property market moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the high-end units particularly will continue to do that. And we also see the same with low-set homes, so single-level homes, because all the boomers are downsizing. And when you've got the wealthiest generation in the country downsizing, they generally go for something pretty bougie. The other thing that people forget is that that's a generation without a mortgage, so you can't hurt them by putting the rates up. And I think that's where the RBA, the government, is a bit remiss here, is that they're not doing anything by putting the rates up. My mother's a boomer, and I was only joking the other day. I said, imagine if the rates went up 5 more times. And she went, that'd be great. My fixed term deposits would be getting a better yield. Literally, they are the problem with the property market in that sense, because it doesn't hurt them. It only actually helps them. So I think you'll see that market really improve, even those dual generation or multi-generational properties as well, because aged care is absolutely stuffed at the moment. You're talking 18-month waits to get into most of the aged care places we are. So we're actually seeing people buy really nice units, buy really nice single-level homes or multi-generational, and they're actually putting their own aged care worker on, because just getting into any of these places at the moment, it's an 18-month backlog. That is probably the most bulletproof demographic or kind of property at the moment, because of the demographic buying it.
And I want to talk about agents, because I know that this is in your lane. Agents, the bar, well, is it high? Is the bar low? There's tens of thousands of agents. I'm not sure what the official number is for agents coming into the industry every year. It's always argued that the bar is too low. What are some of your comments in terms of the agents that you see and what is happening in the marketplace?
I think the bar is way too low to get in and to be an agent. My cousin's a cardiologist, and he always jokes, it does his head in that 5 years before you can pick up a scalpel, but a 4-day course and you're unleashed upon someone's entire financial well-being and a trust account. The bar to entry is an issue, but I think more so it's ongoing enforcement and ongoing monitoring. And I use the example of an agent who was banned for 10 years in New South Wales. Now, I have great issue with that on multiple levels. If you're a brand and someone can do what he did and got banned lived by the Aussie fair trading down there for 10 years. You are either complicit in that behaviour and endorsing it, or you are completely negligent to your customer and protecting them. Whichever one of those boots fits, lace it up. But for me, I have seen things in doing this industry, and it's one of the reasons I went independent, because I got so sick of being in franchise groups where a lot of really poor behaviour was happening and you'd point it out and it would be tolerated because that person was a good performer, inverted commas. And so I think that the industry needs to look at what it's doing, and I think all of the Aussie fair tradings across Australia could really do a lot to make sure there's a lot more to protect the consumer, both seller and buyer. Transparency. I will Zoom a vendor into an open home so they can hear everything I'm hearing, they see everything I'm saying. If you can't do that as an agent, you're probably doing some things wrong or some underhanded things. So I used to teach mediation. So we're all sitting at the same table so everyone hears the same conversation. I think the industry could do a lot. And I think as time is going on with tech particularly, the consumers are becoming a lot more aware of what's happening because there's a much better paper trail. So I think that will weed a few of them out anyway.
We are talking to Tristan, and he is in the Brisbane property market this morning. When we come back, Brisbane versus Sydney and Melbourne property markets. What is happening in that space? We'll talk about that after this.
We help to break down real estate every day to help you better understand the Australian property market. Eager to expand your property expertise? Enhance your real estate know-how with us.
Always interesting in some of these these real estate reports that are out there, covers kind of a multitude of different things. Knight Frank's Vineyard Index is out there. That tells us that the Barossa Valley is the most affordable wine region by hectare globally. Yeah, Knight Frank's Global Vineyards Index has found that 1 million US buys 18.18 hectares of land in the Barossa Valley. That is the greatest amount of land in the regions examined. The cost of land in the Barossa Valley was $55,000 US a hectare at the end of 2025, and that is following a 10% reduction over the year, making it the most affordable wine region. The Barossa Valley and nearby Eden Valley have been named as regions to watch in Australia for the trading uptrend, which is another index. It is a Real Estate Thursday. Tristan is here. Keen on some Barossa Valley land there, Tristan, by the sound of it.
It's actually funny. One of my very good friends, great agent, Mark McGill, owns a winery in the Barossa. McGill got 94 in the Hadfields Index the other day. We keep joking he's a better winemaker than a real estate agent. It's good property down there. It really is. And the name carries a lot of weight with wine as well.
Yeah, no, it's all interesting. And the rental market, let's talk about Brisbane's tight vacancy rates and strong population growth. Investors at the moment, they're watching those rental returns extremely tightly. Maybe that can sort of segue you into the budget, because I know you had a couple of talking points around that as well.
I think people don't understand that there's a lot of underpinning issues in Queensland with the rental side of things, and this will be even at a national level to a degree as well. But a lot of what's happening at the moment is coming from government interference. So the state government, the previous ALP government up here, introduced some significant, if not catastrophic, rental reforms about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and 2 years ago. So 3 different tranches. One of the biggest ones was what's called the minimum housing standards. So you had a huge amount of change to legislation and what you could or could not rent out. And if landlords didn't comply with it, they would actually get a $7,500 fine, which is a very big issue, because I saw clients who would have what I'd call 3-star or 3.5-star rentals who then couldn't re-rent those properties unless significant works were done to them. We ended up, the scenario was like 5 stars or a tent. And one of my clients, one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life, they had 4 units in Wilston, rented at less than half market rent just because they're good people. They wanted to help out. And this legislation forced them to sell the property. All 4 tenants got moved on. The buyer then did the renovations and then re-rented them at more than double what the previous rent was. But those tenants were happy there, and the owner was happy to let them have it because it didn't owe them anything. And so you get 4 wonderful tenants who are now homeless. One of them had to go from walking to the RBH for treatment to now he lives past Caboolture in a caravan. I think the government didn't understand what they did, and they didn't really want to hear from the REIQ. We kicked and screamed and protested because we didn't want to see that happen to tenants. But they talk about 0.something% vacancy. It is negative 20% in my opinion, but you've now got multiple generations, multiple couples living under the same roof, and that is why rents have gone through the roof. because then they can split that cost of rent, but there's just hardly anywhere to live. And the last tranche that Stephen Miles brought in, where you've got these unified application forms now, you can't offer over asking, you can't offer more than 4 weeks rent in advance, and you can hardly even really use your references because we're not allowed to ask many questions now. You basically have 30 applications in front of you and you've got to pretty much spin a spinning top and see which way it lands. And I say that with a high degree of sarcasm, but it is much better than that. So there's a real difficulty getting into rentals, and whatever slowdown we see in the Brisbane market this year, if any, it will rebound by the end of the year, because by the time we get to December and January, just like 2022, people go, okay, there's 85 people here for this rental. Buying a house looks like a lot easier option, and people will go back to buying again. So our rental market will only see more pressure with the lack of new investors coming into the market off the back of the budget.
Now, just before I let you go, because you are an employer, you run your own real estate company, a couple of things that you look for may be top of mind in new agents. Now, if you're thinking and listening out there about getting into the real estate industry, Tristan is possibly going to help you here with 2 must-have things that you look for with these new agents coming in.
Yeah, true. Or go. I always call it the holy trinity: coachable, durable, and cares about the client. And the third one is the most important. And John, who works for me, is a prime example where he came to me after 10 years of being in the industry. And he said, mate, I'm not good enough to be an agent. I just want to be co-agent in your team. And within 3 months, I said, mate, you are completely wasted in my team. You're a great guy. You really care about people. You could be phenomenally successful. You just got to change a few structural things and whatnot. And now he does quite literally 10 times what he did that year. He's one of the best agents in the country now. I always say to people, it's hard to negotiate down an agent when they're on the owner's side, not just their sign. And the beautiful thing about this job is not the income you earn, it's the relationships and the friendships you build. You know, my little boy was in the ICU last year, and boy was I glad to have one of my clients be the head of the ICU the day he was there. And there's phone friends you'll have that you will never appreciate until you need them. But someone who cares about the client, because that's what's going to keep you going at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night when you're running around in the rain, getting contracts signed, etc., and really has that buy-in. They're the people that change people's lives and appreciate the importance of what we're given. And the other one is coachability, durability, both. But coachability is a big one. I meet a lot of agents that know everything but have nothing to show for it. I'm constantly learning. I love getting shown something new every day wherever I can. If you want to learn and you get yourself into a good environment, that's probably the biggest one. Find a business that wants to invest in you and grow you. That will really help you.
Is there one particular industry that really converts when somebody moves from one industry into real estate? It's an interesting question. I've never asked that to anybody before, but it might sort of resonate with you.
Ironically, yes, I could tell you instantly. Bloody chefs. I'm an ex-chef. I can think of 10 of the top 20 agents in Australia who were actually ex-chefs in a previous life. And I always joke it's because we used to working long days, standing on our feet, and we're completely durable, and we're used to getting yelled at. I've always joked I've never had a buyer or seller throw a hot fry pan at me across the kitchen, but I've had a couple of chefs I've worked at do that. For whatever reason, ex-chefs are extremely good at real estate. And I also think part of that, I'm in a team, so I've got 6 other people on my team, knowing where your stations are. You know, you're on the steaks, you're on the carrots, you're on that communication if you grow to the point where you do have a team. Most ex-hospitality people, I find, do very well because they're very good at not biting back and, let things roll off their shoulders. They're used to working the long hours and standing on their feet. They're, for whatever reason, a very natural progression from one to the other.
So if anybody is listening from the hospitality industry this morning, that is probably going to send them over the cliff into real estate. Hey, great stuff, Tristan. Good to catch up on our Thursday morning. Enjoy your day and talk again another time.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Decode the property market with insider knowledge and insights to better navigate your real estate journey. We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.